Hello once again, my Spartan brothers and sisters. This is Karima with another God of War Ragnarok build video. This time using an absolutely chaotic build, but which is very fun to use. It requires a lot of attention on your part to benefit the most from this build, but it's very fun to use. You can put out some good damage. Nothing insane, nothing that is going to make you godlike, but the interest about this build is that it's going to give you a lot of versatility. It's going to force you to use all the weapons as you go, which can be very fun, and give you something new, a new way to play the game, so to speak, if you are looking for something different to use. As for this build, we are using the chest piece breastplate of Guiding Light, which gives us a moderate luck chance on any hit to increase the strength, runic, and luck of one of Kratos' weapons. So this is the reason why this is going to be such a chaotic build to use, because you're going to be using your blades, your axe, and your spear, and randomly on the left side of your screen is going to pop up a buff saying Blessed Axe, or Blessed Spear, or Blessed Blades. And when that buff shows up, it means that it's time to switch to the weapon that got the buff, so you can benefit on the increased strength, runic, and luck out of that weapon. Now, this comes with a little bit of a cost, and the cost is sometimes you're going to be focused on using a weapon, for example, the axe. You activate the permafrost on the axe, you are attacking with the axe, and suddenly your spear gets the blessing buff. Now, when that happens, you might feel immediately tempted to switch off to the spear to benefit from the blessing spear. It's not always the best option, because if you already have the permafrost activated on your axe and you switch to the spear, you're going to lose the permafrost. It's not going to morph into maelstrom activated on the spear. So in that case, I would recommend, if you had activated the permafrost, use the rest of the permafrost and then switch to the spear. You will notice that the activation of the blessed weapon lasts for about 10 seconds, something like that. And if you have activated the permafrost, it also lasts for about 10 seconds. So if you get the blessed weapon as you activate the permafrost, don't switch, don't change weapon, use the permafrost, keep going, and then by the end of it, do switch to the weapon in question. If you still get some of the benefit, that's great. If you don't, keep attacking with the weapon that you just switched to, and shortly after, you will probably get another blessed weapon. Now, the important part of this build is not just the chest, which, as I explained before, gives you moderate luck chance to increase strength, runic, and luck of one of the weapons. But if you combine this with the spiritual wraps and spiritual belt, it makes it even more fun. This is because these two pieces will increase the melee attacks, giving you a luck chance to restore some cooldown for the equipped weapon runic attacks. So you're using the spear, you get a blessing of an axe, you switch to the axe, and your melee attacks with the axe will then have a low luck chance to also restore cooldowns for the axe. So as you go switching around between your weapons using the corresponding runic attacks, you will be triggering blessed weapons maybe on the weapon that you are already using, which is great. If that's the case, just keep using the weapon you already got. If not, you will switch to a different weapon, maybe the blades or the spear, and you will try to use the best you can out of the buff from the blessed weapon, and use the runic attacks at the same time, because you might then get the benefit from the arcane refresh. So it's very entertaining. It does require a lot of attention to the left side of the screen because you have to pay attention to whatever buffs are popping as you go, but it's very fun to use, and I'm going to demonstrate how funny it can be and how effective it actually can be. I wasn't expecting the buff to be so extensive and so on point, considering that our stats are not focused on just strength, they are not just focused on runic, they are not just focused on luck, and they are not just focused on cooldown. If you look at the top left of the screen, you'll see that the only thing we really didn't care at all was vitality, but then we kind of have a balance between our strength, which is nearly 400, our defense is 322, which is not great, but it does the job, and then we have 254 runic, which is very useful because it will buff our attacks and our elemental damage quite a lot. And you will understand shortly why the runic and the elemental damage are going to help you along the road with this build. Now, you also have the 207 luck, which will help all of these trigger because these are all based on luck. And also you have 150 cooldown, which means that you will constantly get your runic attacks back, which is very useful. For the weapons, in this case we are using the Leviathan axe with the runic hailstone knob, which also has a moderate luck chance of hitting a frosted enemy to gain a blessing of runic. Now, here's the thing. This blessing of runic will not be just for the axe. So you are attacking a frosted enemy, you get a blessing of runic, you suddenly get a blessed spear. The blessing of runic will also apply to the spear. So if you then do a runic attack with a spear, which you have the buff of the blessed weapon, this blessing of runic will also apply to the runic attack with the spear. So basically, as you are switching between weapons, you are also benefiting from all sorts of buffs from the axe, from the chest, and from the 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 attachment on the axe. As for the blades, we are using the pommels of Undying Spark, which increases the damage that the burn status inflicts on enemies. The number one reason to choose for this one is because it's going to give us stats of strength and runic in a good balance, and also keep in mind that the burn status will do more damage the higher your runic stat. So this will only add up to the damage effect of burn. For the runic attacks, uh, it's entirely up to you. Use whatever you prefer. Uh, I like to switch around sometimes, but there are certain ones that I keep as the Rampage of the Furies. But either for the Leviathan or the Blades or the Spear, the runic attacks are entirely up to you. Use whatever you choose, whatever you prefer. For the final piece of weaponry, we are using the Sonic Piercer, which gives us a spear attack against Sonic afflicted enemies, deal bonus damage, and build bonus Maelstrom skill charge. Unfortunately, we are not going to benefit much from this part of the spear because we will be focused on using the sigil arrows more than the Sonic ones. So you don't really get much benefit from this. But during the fight, if you do feel like throwing a couple of Sonic weapons and get an enemy affected with Sonic, you'll just benefit from it. The number one reason to have this attachment is because it's going to increase our strength and our runic, which is part of the stuff that we need for this build to work. For the shield, we are using the Dauntless Shield because I like to parry everything as much as I can, and because I'm using the Round of Disruption. If you have watched some of my previous videos, you have seen this happen before. This shield is absolutely fun to use with this attachment, because this attachment will say you got a low luck chance to create an elemental storm when interrupting double blue ring attacks by double tapping L1 or pairing. Because we are pairing as much as we can, this will trigger quite frequently considering that we have 207 luck. So this is another form of damage, and again, this is elemental damage. So the elemental damage will also increase with the higher your runic stat, which in this case is 254. So one thing helps the other. Your stats will basically combine with each other to give you the best benefit possible for this build to do as much damage as you can. For the Spartan Rage, we are using Wrath, but again, it's entirely up to you. I choose to use Wrath. The Relic, I'm using the Hilt of Offwood, and I used it for both the Berserker King and the Valkyrie Queen just a moment ago, because, again, if you have watched my videos before, you know they are my test subjects for all my builds. I like to use them as my targets to go for testing my builds. For Freya, as I mentioned before, we are using the accessories Sigil Punishment and Sigil Amplification. The Sigil Punishment says that melee attacks against an enemy afflicted with Hex deal significantly increased damage, and the Sigil Amplification says Sigil arrows deal significantly increased status. And in every single one of my builds, I use the Noct Proficiency, because every third runic arrow fires an additional 3 arrows, so you get 6 arrows for the price of 3, which is quite useful to get them enemies X'd straight away. For the last piece of important stuff in the build, the Amulet of Yggdrasil, we are using the Seal of Runic Storm, again using runic attacks of 3 different weapons in quick succession, grant a buff of increased stagger resistance and creates a Storm of Bifrost. This is because we have such a good cooldown that we can constantly use our runic attacks, and because we can constantly use your runic attacks and we get benefits of runic blessings of runic in all our weapons as we go, and we get runic blessing as well from using the X on a frosted enemy. This will be very useful, and it will just be another source of elemental damage that again will scale up the higher your runic stat. As for the next one, we are using the Attune Runic Gem, which increases the damage of runic attacks when the Permafrost, Immolation, or Maelstrom Steel Gorges are fully charged, which after using 2 runic attacks, let's say you use the runic attack of the spear and then you change to the blades and you use the runic attack of the blades, you are definitely going to have Permafrost, Immolation, and Maelstrom fully charged. So when you swap to the axe to do the 3rd runic attack, you will already benefit from this perk, and you will get some bonus damage going on from your runic attack with the axe, which then will activate the Storm of Bifrost from the Seal of Runic Storm, and from there you can use the Permafrost on the X to dish out incredible amounts of damage, especially because we are going to combine that with the Emblem of the 9 Realms, which increases melee damage during realm shifts, and because we are using the relic that activates realm shifts, everything will be increasing your damage as you go. So using this build, you will notice that your first few attacks will deal a decent amount of damage, but the more you keep attacking, the more you keep being on top of your enemy, the more damage you'll be doing along the road. Now, for the other 2 sets, we are using the Vanaheim's enchantment set and the Muspelheim enchantment set. You have seen these before in my previous videos, I'm sure. This one says that increases Kratos' melee damage against status-afflicted enemies based on his luck. We have a decent amount of luck, 207, so as soon as we get an enemy hexed, frosted, bifrosted, burning, or with the force from the spear, you'll be benefiting from this. The Muspelheim Force increases Kratos' melee damage when the Permafrost, Immolation, or Maelstrom skills are fully charged. Based on Runic, we have 254 Runic. It's not too high, it's not too bad. It's just on point to help get the build to where we want it to be. Now, I'll just do a quick demonstration of how the build works against the Boss Rush Challenge, for you guys to have an idea of how to use it. So as this guy comes, I like to immediately start with a runic attack. I'm not going to worry about getting damage, not really concerned here. And then we get the Storm of Bifrost. And he is dead. As I said, I was not worried at all about the damage. If I was, I would have been more careful about getting hit. We got a Storm of Bifrost from the parries. Just want to bring her down at this point in time. I'm not going to try to use the Storm of Bifrost a second time. Oh, I completely missed that one. This one I can parry. Just want to close the gap here, to be honest. Blessed Blades, as you can see there, so I'm going to switch to the Blades to get the benefit from it. Can you see the amount of damage you get from the Blessed Blades? And those were normal attacks. I'm just going to go for the Storm of Bifrost at this time to finish this guy off, just because it's fun. I just need to stand here at this point. As you can see, I didn't have to finish him off. So, this gives you a good idea of how the build works. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of blessed weapons going on, but when we did get the blessed blades, you could see the significant amount of how much more damage we were doing as we switched to the blades. I'm going to do another one quickly, just so we can see if we get another blessed weapon. This time I'm not going to worry about the Storm of Bifrost that much. Get that chest piece out of there, smash it on his face. Poor man. Storm of Frost. Blessed Blades, as you can see. So the poor thing is down with that Storm of Frost, and those Blessed Blades just finished them off completely. Blessed Blades, so we're gonna switch to the blades quickly. Oh, we got damage going on there. No problem, we'll parry this one. And I can finish him off. We also got the Storm of Bifrost from the shield attachment, as you can see. So everything you do kind of combines with everything else you can do. So it's so much fun to use this build, honestly. Blessed Blades again. Lucky enough we are already using the blades, so we don't even have to swap. We got two parries out of there. Oh my god, that was so poorly directed. We got another Storm of Bifrost. And this is it. So as you can see, everything you do, either it's using your normal weapon attacks to get those blessed weapons going on, or parrying your enemies, everything will eventually trigger something with the amount of luck that we've got going on. And also, it will give you increased damage as you go and sustained damage from the elemental side of things. So I hope this second run kind of gave you a better idea of how it works. Unfortunately, the only downside of this build, which I have encountered so far, is that unfortunately this chest piece says moderate luck chance on any hit to increase the strength, runic, and luck of one of Kratos' weapons. So it says you have a moderate luck chance of getting that weapon blessing on any hit. As you saw, it doesn't always activate as many times as you might expect it that it would activate. This was kind of disappointing in the build, and I'm going to be honest about it. It's the only downside I have come across so far. But I have also noticed that when you are fighting a boss, this weapon blessing does tend to trigger more often. So as I'm fighting the Berserker King next and the Valkyrie Queen, you will see that these kind of do show up a little bit more often than they do against normal enemies. But enough said for now, let's watch those fights. Right, let's summon the Berserker King. I like to start with a spear for these fights. Dodge this attack. Try to parry this one, there we go. Blessed Spear, perfect. We will do the runic attack with the Blessed Spear. We will try to activate the Storm of Bifrost by switching for the runic attack with the axe and then finishing with the runic attack with the blade. We activated the Storm of Bifrost. Unfortunately, he ran away pretty much immediately. We get a cooldown restore. We bring him down with the axe. Now we're going to try to dish out some damage with the Permafrost. We activate the Storm of Bifrost because we parried with the shield, and we use the runic for the realm, the relic for the realm shift. We also got the Blessed Axe going on, which is absolutely perfect at this point in time with the Permafrost activated. So you saw we suddenly dished an extraordinary amount of damage. Just because pretty much everything kind of fell apart together. We got the Blessing Axe, the Blessed Axe, the Storm of Bifrost, and we'll keep going from there. Try to activate another Storm of Bifrost by doing the runic attack with the spear, but we missed. We switch for the blades, and we do land our runic attack with the blades, and then finish with the runic attack with the axe. Unfortunately, I didn't notice I had activated the Blessed Blades and I wasted the Permafrost with the axe. But as I explained before, do not switch for the blades, finish using the Permafrost. At this point in time, I was waiting to see what I can get. I can get a Blessed Spear, perfect. I switched to the Spear, I got a Storm of Fire because of the interrupting attack, and I finish him off with a runic attack with the Spear. So as you saw, the only thing I genuinely wasted was activating the Permafrost just as the Blessed Blades were activated from the chest piece, which is a little bit of a shame, but as I explained before, when that happens, when you activate the Permafrost, don't switch to the Blessed Weapon, because you'll be wasting it. Now for the Valkyrie Queen. Let's settle this. We start with the heavy runic attack with the spear, as I always like to do, switching to the heavy runic attack with the blades. For the Storm of Bifrost, we activate the summoning attack with Freya, and we finish with the heavy runic attack with the axe. We activate the Storm of Bifrost, and then we activate Realm Shift and the Permafrost with the axe. Unfortunately, we didn't get the Blessed Axe at this point in time, but we keep insisting. Because she was frozen, I switched off to the blades to try to get her burned. It didn't work, but I then focused on activating another Storm of Bifrost, and I managed to do so, and I get the Blessed Axe, and I activate the Permafrost. I parried her, and look at the amount of damage we get from just this little moment when I was dishing out that much damage combined with all the things falling apart together. And this is when we finish her off, and this is the end of the video. Please subscribe if you haven't done yet, and this is Kadima saying goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. Cheerio!